Okay, it says live. Okay, live at 5-ish, almost 5. Not intentionally at 5, just kind of happening this way because usually I would wait until Thursday to put on the video and hope for weekend views, but lately that hasn't been happening. So, okay, I'll just do it now and get it over with. Because I was going to do this video a few days ago, but I didn't want to step on the toes of my other two videos that hardly anybody watched. The more recent ones being not boot videos anyway, but stuff. Well, the one was a boot video, 289. That's my 8 weeks, 8 boots challenge update, and 16 views, and most of those views not very long, so a little disappointing there. But it's only week 2, and I'm not doing a week 3 video. I might do a week 4 video. The thumbnail is from that video, but of course I can't actually hold up that boot because I'm wearing it. I can't get it on the camera from this angle. Maybe I can get it right. There we go. Okay, yeah. So they're currently on feet, not on display. And these are not the boots that I wore most of this week. These are the boots that I put on just a couple hours ago. I've been wearing the Thursday President Black Coffee boots finally. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and this morning. So 4 days in a row I've worn those a bit. I didn't bring them in here, but I talked about them in the previous video, number 290, a little bit prematurely maybe. There's one thing, well, this is a different boot, but there's kind of a similar thing going on here, that on the right side was really stabbing me below the ankle, so that was uncomfortable. It wasn't doing that until yesterday. Last night it was doing that, so I was kind of reluctant to put them on again this morning. But I wore them this morning for a bit, and they were fine, a couple hours. And so we'll see how my ankle feels tonight. This is all preliminary junk. This isn't actually part 1, so I showed the part 1 thing premature. Anyway, okay, so enough preliminary junk. The whole thing going on right now. Okay, so I had 3. I couldn't fit everything in the title. I have 3 kind of topics or tangents. And the middle one is that. Where'd the other one go? I'm looking at my notes. Sorry. We'll just start there then. Okay. That's that. What is this? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what happened here with my I seem to be missing notes from one of my 3 parts, but that's okay. I can cover that separately without much notes. So skipping to the Bootsology or whatever, he was talking about how to style green boots, and I said I think I have 3 pairs now, but I've only worn 2. I didn't bring those in here. I might do a video more about that next month rather than really go into it now, because I'm not really styling green. This is what I was talking about in yesterday's video, or the more recent video, not quite yesterday. But he was saying, unless you're dressing like a leprechaun or a soldier, is it more or less easy to style green boots, either using them as a standout piece or using them to blend in with a monochromatic kind of outfit. I've done, I guess, both. Although I guess I've done the second one, the latter, more often. I do have green boots that are not not counting army, jungle boots and whatnot for hiking and such. Like I said, maybe those green boots that I own will get some use more next month. A bit. I can dress in plenty green outfits. That's not only for St. Patrick's Day for sure. Believe me. I mean, I'm wearing, boring gray right now, but it's January. And I did get a great compliment from a gal at the Hobby Lobby counter last year for my green outfit for sure, even if you wouldn't suspect it, that I can do this without just looking like a leprechaun. I keep meaning to get rid of some other colors from my wardrobe already too. Partly the subject of the previous video. Do I wear pink? No thanks. How the world is less safe than last week already. Right, more conspiracies and histrionics or whatever. Nothing to do with boots. Okay, so the this is okay. My fault. I read it wrong. So we're good. Parker. There's another channel I started watching where he's been using other vid clips and things that I've already seen of their videos that I never commented on because it was kind of over the limit of time that I think is kind of necessary. If it's been more than a couple weeks, I don't usually leave a comment. So I didn't chime in on the one guy's video, but this guy is really going to the mat or whatever as the anti-JK Boots spokesman or one of them. Not quite. I don't know if that's, working out better for him than I've had this channel for 3 years. And I was, really arguing with Nick's marketing people a lot for a while there, but I wasn't in the anti or pro JK camp really one way or the other. I did, again, get these. I wore these in last week for part of the challenge. These are the boots that I bought. I haven't tried to rip the outsoles off or anything to see if they're made incorrectly. Of course, I might have bought these before a lot of customers started having the problems. There's another guy whose videos I watch. He has a pair of different model ones with the shrunken bison, and he absolutely loves them. And he just ordered another pair, but I don't know that he's gotten that pair of a different model in yet. So I haven't seen his update yet to know if he's going to have a quality control issue or not. As I discussed, my main issue when I got these was the sizing, the fit, kind of trying to nail that down. And I never quite, got the boots exactly right, but I put an insole in them and they've been fine. And I talked about this already in the video last week with that nobody watched, episode number 55 or no 289. It's when I go all blurry. You can't miss it because I had to trim that video to not be all blurry and babbling. So I'm not going to go in detail about these again because I just talked about them 4 days ago or whatever. But anyway, so to read what that was going on, he was saying, instead of he was upset about the rebuild program replacing the resole, which I guess they've now changed their mind and gone back to doing resoles. Don't ask, I don't know. I haven't been keeping up. I said I was planning to get mine rebuilt elsewhere anyway, but my guess is they just didn't update their website yet because that costs money. And then I said, it's easier to call the customer maybe when they send in their boot. This was speculation. Easier to call the customer when they send in their boots and explain that they're getting this new miracle cost-saving service than just the resole they may actually require. Question mark. I used to work for a place with similar method strategy, and it was mostly a nightmare when you send out product to people that they don't actually want, but they didn't have to. The company didn't have the up to the speed inventory that we needed to correct in those days to keep up with their limited stock flash sales. So they'd get 300 people buying 2 pairs of product, and especially with clothing items and things, people are finicky about that kind of thing. So they thought, well, the people would be all happy and appreciate the bait and switch upgrades to some other brand than the one they ordered and such. And of course, as customer service, I had to it's a more expensive thing. You sure you don't want it? I didn't order this. Why did you send me that? They just thought it was a mistake instead of a strategy. Rude awakening for them. How they never got a big lawsuit out of it, I don't know. Somehow they got away with it. Enough people kept the thing when they explained that, we don't have that thing anymore. We gave you this one for the same price. But, again, that doesn't always work with fit because, like I said, I had to really try to get it fit with this one that was running different than the sizing on, like, the boots I'm wearing, which are true to size, or the Thursday boots, which run narrow or small, more narrow, whereas these run big, so I understand that, that would be possibly an issue, but why I was not going to get these rebuilt by them because I wanted to see what another company would do with this to make it potentially fit better. And I never really liked the rough out. I've talked about this already a bunch. And like I said, I don't have a problem with the construction of these. I think overall they're fine. So, like I said, I haven't had any of those issues per se in terms of the materials and the being boots that I can wear. They function more or less like boots so far. So he replied, no, last week on their site, resole was not an option, and now it is. Rebuild went from $220 to $325, which was the previous price before the new policy. I guess he meant they backtracked to the old repair program. Gotcha. I think that was me saying gotcha. Me, not him. I'd have to go back to I don't know. That's a totally different video. They backtracked to the old repair program. That was just what that was the last thing you put. Okay. And then so what's going on with them and that? I mean, the obvious complaint was that the whole point of the PNW boots, what the other guy who likes his boots was even saying is he didn't necessarily want to do that, but he's going to send his in for the rebuild, although now he might not have to because he needed a resole. Maybe they got his boots and started the rebuild already. I don't know. I haven't seen his new update yet in regards to these boots. So I'm waiting with bated breath to find out what happened, if he ended up with a resole or a rebuild, and if he got his new boots yet and all that. And I expect to know that kind of thing, and maybe not next week, maybe the week after. We'll see. So yeah, this goes into the next part, but I'll do it anyway. One of the things I was going to change about this also was to make them more like the other more heavy duty logger boots with the higher heel stack and the heavier arch support and the extra leather. And I already have 3 pairs of Builder Pros from the other company, so I didn't really need to do that yet. So it's not really a rush. So again, I'm just wearing these as casual things for now, just to use up the outsole. I've said this in like 5 videos already. Like I said, as far as functioning boots go, they're fine. They're doing the job. I'm not on the. I haven't had a significant issue with them for me to really go into that. But the PNW companies that might handle these won't handle a lot of the other boots. So again, I was saying that I might want to do the same thing with Thorogoods. Once I've worn these a bit and have worn out the resoles, instead of getting a new wedge sole on there, I might try to do the same thing as I would want to do with these and turn them into more of a heavy duty logger boot. Okay, so we're part 3. Okay, so I had watched videos by several cobblers. It's one of my, I guess, boredom hobbies, I guess. And so one of the ones that I recently watched, instead of the brands that I got, because Rose Anvil said, I'd probably enjoy the Thorogood ones more, and so I believed him and got the Thorogoods instead of the Red Wings. And finally started wearing them now 2 or 3 years later or whatever. And also the Wolverine loader ones that I've shown in half dozen videos or whatever, might want to do the same thing. So I'm watching these recraft videos where mostly these are people who don't necessarily need a resole yet. They bought this boot. I'm trying to hit myself in the face with the shoelaces all the time. Just get it brand new and send it right in to change it up, especially some of the Thursday boots and some of the Red Wing boots. So the Iron Rangers pop up pretty often in these kind of recraft videos. So I was watching one, and it wasn't so much about that. It was a teardown, and he said it nearly broke me. And I was like, how did it nearly break him? There was like 2 boots or 2 pairs of boots that were a little bit difficult. One was brand new, so of course he had a little more trouble with the teardown, and he did those last. But then there was another pair that he said he should have left for last. So I said, pro tip, if something should be saved for last, you can always put it aside until later and do it after you do the other things, just for your information out there, in case you're new to the world of priorities. That's how prioritizing things works. Sometimes you don't have that luxury, I understand, but in this case, you totally had that luxury and chose to not do that, and you're complaining about it to me, which gives me then ammunition to come back at you because I need content too. But also, like, I want good content, and I'm trying to be constructive criticism guy, even if it's a little bit snarky, right? But then he tears all these boots apart, and it's a pretty long video for what it is, and so, and not a lot of like useful tips. He's talking about that pair of boots as to why they're so hard to tear apart, because the people waited too long to send them in. Obviously, again, I don't think sending in brand new boots is necessarily the way to go, unless you have a lot of extra money lying around. But of course, I also think that if something is disintegrated, you might be, in for a rude awakening if they get the thing and say, hey, we can't even fix this. It's crap, it's done, which has happened to me a couple times. And I've made those videos already. So clueless guys may not know that they are clueless. So maybe give them helpful tips, telltale signs that they should get their boots looked at before all the stuff, is rotting inside, etc. Yeah. And then I said, also, why are you tearing down, the new ones too? Will this be explained if I'm patient? I mean, like I said, I understand that people send in new boots. I was just being kind of like, And again, he did those last. but not really necessarily explained. So yeah, watching the whole process, this was pretty redundant for me to wait another 10 minutes and hope that these things will be explained. What is he going to do with these new boots? Are we replacing lots of internal components, or they just want to make the outsole blue or something? They never did answer that. They just said boots will be featured in future videos. But if all the videos are the same exact thing with 20 pairs of boots, don't expect me to watch all of them. So I complained further. Usually titles like this are just clickbait. So also waiting for the break him part again, which didn't really ever happen. This is just him doing the job, really. Like I said, you could have left that other difficult one till tomorrow if it was that difficult and got all the other ones out of the way. Because that's what you're getting paid to do, is just do that. So how did it, unless you didn't quit your job, obviously you made a video about it. So unfortunately, this was mostly spectacle and not much above rudimentary information that took quite a bit of extra time there that I kept skipping forward to try and get through the thing. Oh, I guess is your Dr. Soul redo from a previous video is the difficult one at about 20 minutes. I know this because he sent me links that I then watched, 2 videos that he recommended and a third video that wasn't recommended that was actually slightly more useful than one of those 2 videos. So he replied, we have other or him or whoever replied, we have other videos breaking down one pair of boots and going through the details of the process. This video is based upon multiple requests from our regular viewers, as if I don't count. All the questions you asked are covered in our content on a regular basis. To which I replied, no, I asked specific questions about this video and the featured boots therein, which is true because that's exactly what I did. Which other videos should I watch then that I am not considered a regular enough viewer? And he did send me a link to one that I'm positive that I did watch a couple years ago and just didn't remember the whole thing. I'm sure I've seen plenty, but maybe I didn't comment before because I don't think I've ever commented on their videos before because, again, I'm usually watching them after the time elapsed of me wanting to leave a useful comment or whatever. Again, I already understand a fair portion of the process. But that's not helpful for someone who just clicked here and wants to know this information, etc. Then I further said Trenton and Heath videos, for example, which I haven't watched their videos in a while, but I've seen a few of them. I had complained that they show processes that they say they can do, but then often say, don't ask us to do this, which is like, okay, why tease me? I want to know where to get some of these things done, and you say you can do them, but then you say you won't. Okay. I want to know if you can build up a Red Wing style boot, again, a thing like this to be more Pacific Northwest with real arch support and whatnot. If I'm going to ship some pair all the way across the country, sometime in the near future, etc. Whoops. That's why I wonder what those guys are sending in their brand new pair for and such, because again, not everybody's sending in a brand new pair for the exact same thing. They might just want a resole, but they might want a lot of tricked out things. So hopefully, if that's an interesting video, they'll do it sooner than later, and I'll see it. I don't know. We'll see. I keep waiting for somebody to show me the gray area where I'm actually wrong. I'm not 20 and clueless. These are just my thoughts. While I was waiting for him to reply, or them, or whoever, and they did reply. This video was as close to PNW as we go, and they sent me a link to that one. So, like I said, I watched that one. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Why is okay? This is annoying me. There's made a hyperlink in my stupid computer that I don't want. Anyway, then he said another one. This video is best structured to immolate the PNW style. I think they mean imitate. Immolate would mean I set these on fire, although these aren't even the exact style of boots I'm talking about. They're trying to be clever, so they're using the wrong word. Haha. Okay. Immolate the PNW style, and then he sends me that clip. Why can't I get this thing to cooperate? I don't know. Let's try it. Okay, that didn't do what I wanted it to do at all. Am I still recording? Yes. Okay. So that video I watched, like I said, it was about the other thing. The one of the boots that they were tearing down. This is really annoying. So of course my response is burn them. Does he mean imitate? Pretty sure I watched the older one already. Okay, so sorry. But maybe I'll see it again. That one was like 46 minutes long, but I made it through the whole thing. And the other one was 41 minutes long, and I made it through the whole thing, or most of it, I think. I don't want to sound just argumentative or like a buffoon, so we'll see what we get. Okay, so in the new video, this was about the owner tearing apart his own new shoes for a resole, not the ones that he tore apart on camera, but a different pair, because this was from 6 months ago or something, or 3 months ago or whatever it was, or maybe even more recent. I don't remember. Anyway, but so he changed the welt just for a different color. So it wasn't really doing anything PNW much at all, except to make it look, I think, a little bit more like a stitch down in the front. That was definitely something they did in one of the videos. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And then they did some thing with the changing the gemming and stitch on the other one. Did I find this terribly helpful? My other claim about tips and such for gross old boots, not addressed at all. They were talking about the NYX Falcon. I do not have that model of boot. I don't think it's a proper heavy-duty logger model, similar to this, but maybe less compromised strategies with this that the other guy in the last part was complaining about. You know, JK cuts corners and yada, yada, yada. Which, again, I didn't buy this to be a heavy-duty work boot, so those corners cut didn't bother me all that much. And I can theoretically get them fixed or adjusted later anyway. This video is logger shape heel, but not a taller heel stack. Just one leather under the heel cap addition. So this doesn't have any of that. This just has one piece. But a lot of the Pacific Northwest boots, I should have brought in the Builder Pros, but they will have a stack. Is there anything? Nope. Empty. Okay. My other pair's gone out of here. Just one leather piece under the heel cap, heel pad. Oh, he did put in a new, or it's maybe the same heel pad, but he didn't put in a full sock liner. So I thought that was odd too, because one of the things that really annoys me about a lot of these boots is that I even request from NYX to give me a full liner, and they don't. They always just give me a heel thing that's going to peel up in the middle. We all know it's going to peel up in the middle. I don't know if any of them will do what I want yet. I haven't talked to Whites, but I'm pretty sure none of the Whites boots has a full sock liner either. New video, he says, remove heel from behind. And I've seen every cobbler doing this wrong, where, again, this is a one-piece kind of thing, so it doesn't apply the same way. But typically, if this is added onto this separately, they've all, including the Scottish guy, whatever his name is, Oliver or whoever. There's another guy I watched once, and I again mix up all their names because I didn't type them all into the notes. But they're all pulling it this way, and that what that seems to be doing. This doesn't have a metal shank and such, but what that seems to be doing is they're tweaking the boot. This is so much leather in here that even without the extra arch support, I can't bend it and flex it backwards to show. But with the Red Wing, with the steel shank there, it's jacking up the shank, and so they started pulling from the back in the more recent videos, which seems to be an improvement in their methodology anyway. So I don't know if any of the other cobblers are watching or paying attention. Check that out. I did think that was useful. So that did give them a little more status in my, credibility points or whatever. That they're learning as they go from other, people or sources or whatever, and correcting some of their past, again, traditions or style, techniques or whatever. So yeah, in that one video, he's really tweaking the crap out of this guy's boot from pulling it from this direction, and you can really see the shank getting a workout. But you can always replace the shank if you really. In fact, most boots, if I sent them in, I'd want the shank replaced with the 3-rib one anyway. I don't know if all the Red Wings come with that or not. So then video he didn't send link 1 year ago, the one I watched, Iron Logger Total Customization. This is also when they switched the Dr. Soul instead of the Vibram, which was discontinued of that model. So then in the 3-year-old video, the stitching, he stitches the whole under like a corset with the waist by arch support and such. So again, what I'm asking for, what they're doing, instead of adding more leather in the interior and replacing, Red Wing isn't known for having a lot of synthetic material. They're known for having a leather footbed in most of their boots, or at least their heritage boots. So I don't know. I have not owned a pair of Iron Rangers, and I certainly have not torn a pair apart. But again, this having, instead of a steel shank being the primary arch support, this has leather stacked inside, and so it's not as much as I would like, but it's there. What they're doing instead of building it up similar to this, what they're doing is re-putting it, and this might have a steel shank underneath for all I know, but I don't think so. I doubt it. But they're putting back in the steel shank, and then instead of putting anything on the interior, building it up where it would actually touch your foot, they're putting in a leather wedge under that, under being that, I'm showing over right now, and then making this curved to look like it has the arch support with the higher heel stack, with, again, one or more pieces of leather in there, however many you might have requested, or I guess whatever, or they think is necessary to make it, not scraping this on the ground. And so it looks more like the Falcon model with the extra arch support, and again with the they're doing a thing to fake a stitch down look with an extra stitch, even though there's not enough material to turn a Red Wing to flange it out and make a true stitch down. So not doing that, but they're doing this part to make it look stitched down. And they're doing, there was something else maybe they were doing, I don't remember. But this doesn't add any new arch support, like I said, extra, because the Falcon model imitation just is cosmetic. It's just, they're copying only, again, the wider welt to look like that is like a major change, question mark. I'm not sure how to re-welt the back, what they're doing that's significantly different than what's already happening with a regular Red Wing boot, because these are not 360 stitch downs, obviously. So yeah, it seemed, well, when I was watching the corset video again, it was a long 45 minutes. that was trial and error too. He started off in one way and then had to redo the whole thing. So it wasn't like it was this like thing that he had ever done before. Although I didn't think the end result looked bad. Again, I think if you put the time and the effort and the thought into it, just, you know, you wouldn't have to film it and show us all you wasting your time for hours and hours and hours. You know, at least it only took me 15 minutes or whatever to watch that part of it. But so yeah, putting the leather under the shank doesn't add any actual additional arch support for the foot. It just makes it look like you've done something useful from the outside, which, as I complained again in my reply, to whatever he's at immolate. Somewhere in here, I have the other gimmick bit with the welt to imitate stitch down, mostly cosmetic. Okay, I said that already. I have no real stitch preference there, but want to spend money on more practical, useful upgrades. Thank you very much. So that's where I left it off with that. I know this is kind of long-winded to get to that point, but that was my part 3. So that was my boot talk for now, and nobody's come into the chat. I left the chat open just in case anybody would. Although, I don't know, maybe you're just getting off work, or maybe you're watching your favorite program or something that isn't this. Who knows? Like I said, I haven't been broadcasting on Wednesdays on purpose lately, so try it and see how it goes. Same as trial and error with boot waste repair strategies or whatever. So what will happen with the JK boots? Yeah, again, still it's going to be quite some time before I get these to the point where I'm going to send them in for anything like that. So sorry to keep you waiting and waiting and waiting, but that's life. And I don't have any other boots that are that, you know, that condition that they need outsoles yet either. If they did, you'd know about it. I surely would have mentioned that. So I guess I'll sign off. This went on a little bit longer than I thought it would while I was farting around with the document and thing. But if you have any questions, of course, put them in the comments. Since you didn't get to me in the chat, you're too late, but you'll see it soon, hopefully, and enjoy it. And let me know. And convince your friends to subscribe, since I don't know who watches this or doesn't.